Every red carpet feels the same camera flashes, designer gowns, practiced laughter. But what if those smiles were armor? What if every handshake on stage hid the quiet wars that keep Hollywood alive? Fame feeds on tension. This industry thrives on beautiful lies, and the most dangerous lie of all is friendship. For decades, actors have sold us the illusion of unity, Hollywood families, on-set chemistry, lifelong bonds. But behind that glittering fantasy, jealousy grows like mold beneath gold paint. Egos clash in silence, contracts explode in headlines, and reputations die in whispers. Some rivalries begin with a single role. Others with an insult that never made it to print. And some start over nothing at all. Just the sight of someone shining brighter. Every award night, every photo, every polite nod, it's another battlefield. Because in Hollywood, applause is a zero-sum game. One person's triumph is another's humiliation. This isn't a story about gossip. It's a story about survival. The unseen war between people who look like gods, but live like prey. And once you see it, you'll never look at a Hollywood smile the same way again. Stallone and Schwarzenegger, the Alpha Duel. The 1,980 seconds, a decade of sweat, guns, and neon blood. Two men ruled it, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, the boxer and the machine. They started as icons of strength, but soon became addicted to it. Every movie turned into a duel. Who had the bigger box office, the sharper jawline, the stronger myth? Stallone, the street fighter America needed. Schwarzenegger, the immigrant conqueror who believed destiny owed him a crown. Neither could stand to exist in the other's shadow. One story goes that Arnold pulled the perfect psychological prank. He leaked a terrible script, "Stop," or "My mom will shoot," pretending he wanted the lead. Stallone, driven by ego, snatched it first. The movie bombed. But their war wasn't about movies. It was about dominance who controlled the idea of masculinity itself. They fired bullets on screen, but the real shots were invisible sabotage, rumors, pride. Then came time. Bodies softened, fame cooled, and the rivalry turned into reflection. They realized they were two sides of the same coin, fear disguised as competition. They became friends, not out of affection, but out of recognition. Because only an enemy truly understands your hunger. Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman, When Art Becomes Violence. The set of Kramer vs. Kramer, a story about divorce, betrayal, and heartbreak. But no one expected the pain to spill into real life. Meryl Streep was new, disciplined, precise, private. Dustin Hoffman was already a legend, known for his brutal method acting. To get real emotion, he believed he had to cause real pain. He insulted her before takes, mocked the death of her fiancé, and in one infamous moment, slapped her across the face without warning. The result? Cinematic magic. The pain on screen was breathtakingly real. But for Meryl, it wasn't acting. It was humiliation, captured forever. The film won Oscars. Critics called it honest, raw, powerful. But no one asked what it cost her. Years later, she broke the silence. He went too far. It was beyond acting. Behind the applause and trophies was the quiet trauma of a woman forced to bleed for someone else's art. The most chilling part? He never apologized. Hollywood praised the movie for its truth, not realizing the truth was the crime. Julia Roberts and Nick Nolte. Love, hate, and the camera lie. The title of their 1,994 film said it all. I Love Trouble, and no one knew how true that title would be. From the first day on set, Julia Roberts and Nick Nolte despised each other. She called him disgusting. He called her a spoiled brat. Their arguments got so bad, the director shot them separately, editing their romance together from solo takes. On screen, they looked in love. Off screen, they could barely stand the same room. When asked about him years later, Julia smiled and said, "We were mismatched, a soft word hiding a war." Hollywood loves to sell chemistry as destiny, but sometimes that fire you see on screen isn't love, it's hate, perfectly lit. And that's the strange magic of cinema. Two enemies pretending to love each other better than real couples ever could. Harrison Ford and Sean Young, the ice behind the blade. Blade Runner looked like a neon dream. Rain, romance, a dying city. But behind the camera, it was a storm of silence and hostility. Harrison Ford was already a legend. Sean Young was the newcomer, fearless, outspoken. That was her first mistake. The tension started the moment they met. She called him arrogant and cold. He called her unprofessional. The crew whispered, and their love scene earned a darker nickname, the hate scene. It was raw, uncomfortable, unforgettable because it was real. Watch it now and you can feel the frost. His touch restrained, her kiss like punishment. It's not acting, it's emotional warfare burned into 35 millimeters. When filming ended, they never spoke again. Ford denied the feud, Young didn't. "We hated each other," she said later. But that's why the movie worked. Maybe that's the real secret of Blade Runner. Love was never the point. It was just the perfect disguise for hate. Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson brotherhood on fire. Hollywood loves the word family, especially when it's worth billions. But when Fast and Furious became the biggest franchise on Earth, that word started to burn. Vin Diesel was the patriarch, gravel voice, iron ego, self-declared brother to all. Then came Dwayne, The Rock, Johnson bigger, louder, faster. Suddenly, the spotlight shifted. What began as brotherhood turned into a silent war of egos. Johnson fired shots on Instagram, calling certain co-stars candy asses. Everyone knew who he meant. Diesel answered with cryptic family quotes dripping with passive aggression. They refused to film together. Scenes were edited so their paths never crossed. The franchise, built on loyalty, became a masterclass in managed hatred. Years later, Diesel went public, asking Johnson to return. Johnson laughed. "I told him privately not to do that, and that was it." The war ended, but the wound stayed open. Because they weren't fighting over fame. They were fighting over reflection, each seeing in the other the thing he feared most, replacement. In Hollywood, family isn't a bond. It's a contract, and every contract eventually expires. Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall, The Death of Friendship. For millions, Sex and the City was a love letter to friendship, champagne, heartbreak, sisterhood. But behind the glitter, the story was far colder. Sarah Jessica Parker was the show's center. Kim Cattrall was its spark, bold, funny, unfiltered. On screen, they looked inseparable. Off screen, they barely spoke. Whispers started in the later seasons. Pay disputes, favoritism, quiet isolation. When Kim refused a third film, tabloids exploded. Parker said she was heartbroken. Cattrall replied, "I was never friends with those women." Fans couldn't believe it. How could a show about friendship end in silence? But maybe that's the greatest Hollywood illusion, that people who play friends must be friends. In 2018, Kim's brother died. Parker offered condolences online. Cattrall replied publicly, "Stop exploiting our tragedy to restore your image." There's no healing after words like that. Just distance, cold, final, professional. The reboot came years later. Same title, but one of them was gone. Not written out, erased by choice. And maybe that's the cruelest ending Hollywood knows. Not death, erasure. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, love turned trial. It started like a Hollywood fairy tale. The rebel prince and the golden-haired muse. They met on a film set, shared glances, whispered jokes, and sealed it with a kiss the tabloids called cinematic. But behind that chemistry was the first spark of destruction. Their marriage lasted 15 months. The fallout, nearly a decade. What came next wasn't a breakup. It was a global broadcast war. Every courtroom turned into a stage, every text message a weapon. Fans divided into tribes, one wearing his face on t-shirts, the other carving hers into slogans of defiance. Private pain became public theater. Truth didn't matter anymore. The spectacle did. The world watched as they destroyed each other inch by inch, live-streamed, dissected, monetized. It stopped being about justice and became about survival, in an age where tears trend faster than truth. When the verdict finally came, both had lost something far greater than reputation. They lost the right to ever be unseen. In Hollywood, love burns fast. But hate always gets a sequel. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, The War After Love. They called them Brangelina beauty and power combined, a couple too flawless to be real. For a while, it was paradise. 6 children, humanitarian missions, magazine covers, red carpets. They didn't just sell movies, they sold the dream that fame and family could coexist. Then came the flight. 2016, a private jet, a family argument that became legend. What truly happened up there lives half in rumor, half in myth, but it ended with FBI files, custody battles, and a silence sharp enough to cut glass. Jolie accused him of aggression. He called her manipulative. Their empire of affection turned into a courtroom battlefield. Every document, every photograph, every lawyer's phrase peeled away the illusion not of love, but of control. They stopped being partners and became exhibits in a global morality play. And still, they orbit each other bound by children, divided by everything else. Once, they built a vineyard together in France. Now, they fight over who owns the grapes. Because in Hollywood, even paradise comes with paperwork. Bette Davis and Joan Crawford, the first Hollywood battlefield. Long before social media turned gossip into currency, 2 women wrote the rulebook on celebrity hatred, Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. They were icons of the golden age, powerful, magnetic, unapologetically ruthless. Their feud began over a man. It ended as legend. Crawford stole Davis's lover. Davis vowed revenge. When they were cast together in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, the set became a war zone. Crawford hid weights in her costume, so when Davis kicked her during a scene, the impact shattered Davis's back. Davis accidentally hit her with a metal prop. Crew members refused to eat lunch near them. Reporters camped outside the studio, hungry for blood. And the 2 women, both brilliant, turned pain into art so real the world couldn't look away. Half a century later, their feud was reborn as a TV series, proof that Hollywood never forgets its own monsters. But what made it eternal wasn't the violence, it was the reflection. They hated each other because they were mirrors, 2 versions of unstoppable ambition. The men around them came and went. The feud stayed. Why stars can't forgive. In the end, it's never just about money or fame. It's about control, the illusion that someone else's light dims your own. Hollywood teaches competition as survival. Every audition is a battle disguised as a smile. Every friendship, a negotiation for relevance. Every compliment, a countdown to betrayal. Then the cameras stop, the applause fades, and what's left is silence, heavy, polished, terrifying. Some make peace with their rivals, Most never do. Because rivalry is oxygen here, the one thing that keeps them running when everything else collapses. Arnold forgave Stallone. Theron forgave Hardy. But others never moved on. Their feud becomes their story, their brand, their last spark of power when youth and fame slip away. Maybe that's Hollywood's deepest secret. Forgiveness doesn't sell. Conflict does. Love fades quietly. But hate keeps the lights on. And as long as there are cameras, fame, and shadows to stand in, there will always be another smile hiding a grudge.